Hi, I'm Ranjith. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the fourth episode of Biopharma Leaders Stories. This year, we are bringing Biopharma Conclave back to Mumbai in a totally new avatar with new outlook and new set of tracks. Before the commencement of the event, we have planned to get the leaders and their experience closer to you. These interviews will have insights, advices, opinions that has been gained through years in the industry by them. Today, I'm honored and privileged to have with me a very special, renowned guest, Dr. Shubhadeep Sinha, Senior Vice President and Head, Global Operations of Clinical Trials, Pharmacovigilance, Medical Writing, Medical Regulatory and Medical Affairs with Hetero Group and Pharmaceuticals. To give you a brief background of Dr. Sinha, he's an experienced pharmacologist and pharmaceutical physician with more than 22 years of work experience. He is with the Hetero Group of Pharmaceuticals since last 11 years. Prior to that, he has worked with leading pharmaceutical organizations including Vimta Labs, Integene, Alquest, even Accenture, Glenmark, and including Kandelwal Laboratories. Dr. Sinha has also led global clinical development of new chemical entities, including a lot of work in the biological and biosimilar space, and more notably in the recent times in the clinical development of anti-COVID agents such as remdesivir and Sputnik vaccine and more. Without taking much of time, let's welcome Dr. Sinha.
Thank you, Ranjit. Thanks for the detailed introduction. I feel humbled by your so much wide coverage of my experience. Thank you very much.
Right.
We are. I think I'm privileged to be part of the panel of advisors for CPHI Informa Markets, and I look forward to this conference this year. And I've been part of the discussions with Informa Markets advisory panel, and it was a very active. I can tell you that everybody, all the seniors are deeply involved in the thinking and strategy for the conference.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sinha. I'll straight away dive into a first question that we have for you today. How do you see the growth of the Indian pharma sector, particularly in the biosimilar space in this decade?
So Indian pharma sector, of course, is growing very well, and it is one of the largest. As we know, it's the pharmacy capital of the world. But when it comes to biosimilars, it only occupies less than 2% of the space in biosimilars. It did start off well. So the main problem is that we had started a long back, but we didn't grow that well. So only a handful of Indian pharma companies, even today, you can actually count them on fingers compared to what you have in generic chemical formulation. You can count them on fingers who are actually doing some notable business as well as development in biosimilars. So that needs to change, primarily because India and the world needs a lot of biosimilars, and a lot of biosimilars, biologic innovators are coming off patent. And a lot of the diseases need biosimilars. 10 years back, the treatment guidelines did not include biosimilars. Today, biologics and biosimilars are an integral part of those treatment guidelines, whether it is cancers or rheumatoid arthritis or drugs, or all the diseases which the biologics are used for. So since that is happening, in fact, when I was studying medicine, I didn't know anything beyond insulin and the small peptides. Today, our children who are studying medicine, they have biologics as part of their portfolio. So you can see it all has percolated down to the final stakeholder, that is the doctor level. So definitely, Indian pharma needs to take up more of biological development. Of course, who have been there for the last 15-20 years, they are doing really well. And but the biggest area where we have not been able to dent much is the US and Europe market. ROW, we are, many companies have gone to at least 50 other countries, but US Europe market, you don't see much dent from Indian pharma companies. That has to change. So main thing is that the Indian biopharma in Indian biosimilars are managed by pharma companies. They are not standalone biosimilars. We need that culture of standalone biosimilar companies to come along, startups or non-startups from other from other industry. Many companies like Hetero, Intas, and some other companies, they have created separate biopharma companies, which is a good thing to do. And I think even if the biopharma company is owned by a pharmaceutical company, it should be a separate entity, business unit wise or company wise. So US Europe, we just know one or two biosimilars getting marketed and developed, but there are, of course, there are some companies who are doing clinical trials in Europe and US, and we have a bright hope for the future, but we are still far behind even the Korean companies. We have to do a lot more than what we have done over the past few years. We can become, see, if we can become the giants of APIs and pharmaceuticals of the world, we can also become the giants of biosimilars and be the biosimilar supplier of the world.
Absolutely. And that's a lot that you've covered on the biosimilars aspect. So what are the trends do you see in biopharma that's beyond biosimilars?
Biosimilars, of course, continues to remain the bulk of the business, but there is a lot of trends. So traditionally, biologics and biosimilars are used for chronic diseases like cancers, rheumatology, asthma. Now, in COVID-19, we saw that it was even for acute infections of COVID-19, biologics like tocilizumab was used very successfully and saved a lot of lives. Even for milder COVID-19, a combination of biological entities were used and they managed successfully to manage the disease even in the mild phase. So the more and more such usage is in acute disease segment, definitely is going to come along beyond the standard chronic life-threatening diseases like as I just mentioned, cancers, rheumatology are the two most commonly used indications. However, acute indications would change the game, would definitely change the game, and that's going to happen, and COVID-19 has shown that. The second thing that we might see is the conjugates, the biologic chemical conjugate. For example, trastuzumab emtansine, one example. Similar, many such products are being developed. The next generation of biologics as well as biosimilars will be different from what we see today. So there was the first generation of insulins and peptides. The next generation are monoclonal antibodies. The next generation would be the conjugate of the biologics and chemical entities. Also, there would be few companies have also started doing biobetters, meaning improving their current biologics to have a better efficacy and better targeted approach to the disease. So there are a lot of exciting developments happening in biologics and biosimilars beyond the traditional ones.
Right.
I think I've answered your question.
Yes, you have. Thank you, Dr. Sinha. Now, since you're going through your profile, you've done extensive work, especially in the clinical research side. So my third question is more on that. If you could ponder some light on the future role of the clinical research industry in the biosimilars and biologics.
So biologics or biosimilars both require extensive trials. Unlike the generics, where for even for European or US markets, traditional bioequivalence studies was all that you needed. But for biosimilars, you still need an extensive phase 3 study, a phase 1 study, with a comparative pharmacokinetic and pharmacodynamic equivalence, and it is not waived off for any biosimilar. Although that discussion is also going on in certain regulatory markets like MHRA. But as of today, all biosimilars need clinical trials in healthy volunteers and patients. Clinical research industry has much more to gain, actually a lot to gain by entering the biosimilar markets. Today, we still have handful of CROs who have really good experience in biosimilars. Mostly these are multinational companies, multinational CROs, and a few Indian CROs. Unlike generic markets or bioequivalence market, where a lot of CROs are there who claim and who have experience in undertaking clinical trials in both healthy volunteers and patients, but that is not true for biosimilars, biosimilar related clinical trials. So it is very difficult for sponsors like us or any other biopharma sponsors to look for CROs and who have this experience. So CRO industry needs to invest more on this, on the biosimilar clinical trials. The main reason why the CRO industry is not able to do it is because biologics clinical trials require not only clinical operations but also bioanalytical capabilities, which are for large molecules, which are again not there in most CROs. Only again a few handful CROs. You can again count on fingers how many few CROs that are there who are able to do pharmacokinetic evaluations of large molecules like the monoclonal antibodies or immunogenicity or anti-drug antibody estimations. That is also missing. Even the central laboratories beside the top two or three have not done much of biosimilar studies, because there are also pharmacodynamic evaluations which can be easily done by the central laboratories. There's also central radiology requirement, which is also missing in a lot of. So we have struggled quite a bit, and we have been managed to get hold of CROs who are able to do work. We also developed our own teams internally, so that a lot of there's we can work side by side with these CROs, and we can provide the required technical inputs, as well as manage some of the most of the activities ourselves. So that has to change. If the clinical research industry has to grow, they have to get involved and develop capabilities for clinical research in biosimilars.
Great. Thank you. I mean, you shared some great insights there. Now, Dr. Sinha, you've been involved with us as a part of the advisory committee for the Biopharma Conclave, and it's with you and other stalwarts that we're together putting this program by the industry for the industry. So, just a few words from your side in terms of where do you think what will be the major takeaways that the industry will get from the topics around clinical trials and biologics for this conference?
I think there will be lot of takeaways, because again, as I mentioned, there is a lot very little knowledge that is known amongst these traditional pharma companies, even the clinical research or the medical affairs groups. So unless you cannot be ready without training. So this kind of conclave this year or the last years also, we had tried to impart knowledge. It is not just an industry networking conference, it is also a knowledge gaining conference. So I'm sure people who are participating, especially the youngsters who will be the future leaders, they will get a lot of knowledge and understanding about biosimilars, biologics, not only for clinical research. Of course, clinical research will be there, but even the manufacturing aspects, which although one be a clinical research professional should understand basics of the manufacturing quality, should about the biologics and biosimilars should be understood by the clinical researchers also, so that they can do their design the clinical trials better. What is the target, what is the target, for example, during the CMC development, the chemistry manufacturing composition development, the targets of the biosimilars, the biological assays are very important for the clinical research to understand when they design the clinical trials, whether which targets, for example, let's say rituximab. It's a CD20 anti-CD20 drug. Now we need to study the preclinical studies as well as the CMC studies, which are been done on this target receptor, so that we understand how important it is to estimate the CD19, CD20 accurately during the clinical trial. So it does give a window. So it's not only clinical research that for sessions that they should target. They should also target the other areas, the manufacturing areas, the research areas, the analytical areas, especially the analytical areas, the preclinical sessions, which will give them a better overview of the drug development. So what happens usually is that we are all working in silos. So clinical researchers, they only know about clinical research. Rest of the things are okay, quality will handle, manufacturing will handle. So we should know that as well. We should understand basics of that, basics of those aspects, so that we can better design our clinical trials, better understand the target of the company for this particular biosimilars, where this biosimilars will be positioned in the disease profile, in which so all of it's a wholesome experience that the participants will get. Even if you are only from clinical research, you should attend. My advice is you should attend all the sessions besides that of clinical research, so that you can get a wholesome experience, understand the biosimilar development, so that you can understand your discipline better. And Informa Markets, this conference and even the previous editions have provided that platform for all the disciplines to be together at one place, so that you get a wholesome experience.
Perfect. I mean, that brings me to the last question. I think you have partly covered the answers for my upcoming question, but how do you see the role of conferences, like Biopharma Conclave, in bringing and highlighting the growth of this industry?
It's absolutely essential. So as I mentioned, we usually, mostly the industry conferences are meant for networking, knowing people whom you don't meet daily on a daily basis. Yes, that's fine. That's good for getting a new job, or maybe understanding a bit about the other person. But I have seen that the Informa Markets conferences focus on knowledge. And I think most conferences like this, there has to be more conferences. I'm also part of some other conferences from some other organizations, and we need many more conferences. Like I think it should be like as a doctor, I have to attend CMEs, continuing medical education. Similarly, biopharma is such a complex discipline that there has to be a continuing biopharma education, and conferences like this should be on a monthly basis, not a yearly basis. If I would like to tell, so there's a lot more to do, a lot more to learn, and short conferences, crisp conferences is always better to have a very focused and intense learning. Learning has to be focused on, and I also suggest the Informa Market that if they could bring in the councils, the education councils into the, so that people who are attending, they also get some points. For example, pharmacy council, medical council, they give the CME points or the pharmacy council points. So that gives the youngsters a reason to also attend, besides that of networking, and besides being a passive listeners. They come here with an intent that yes, if I attend, I will get certain. So that's an incentive that they will get besides passive learning. So and there should be there should be also the sessions like poster presentations, as you see in academic conferences. So the youngsters should be allowed to present their posters besides the main conference, so the tracks. So that will give, again, it will give a more you have to add some academic flavor to your conference, which is already there. But if you could do this will attract many more youngsters. We need those youngsters to come to these conferences, because we know the seniors. I know seniors I meet in some other conference. I meet them on the company meetings, but the youngsters need to be there. So they are the ones who are going to grow the biopharma industry. We are in the later part of our career, because after a few years we'll retire. Then who will replace us? these youngsters will replace us. They need to come. They need to come because they will be the leaders. For them, besides this networking, besides knowing the seniors, they should come here for knowledge. They should come here for a bit of academic portions as well, so that it helps. If you, even if you have a university tie-up for a particular conference, it will help. It will help you to give even bigger mileage. You're already big, but you can be more. You can grow. You're horizontally and vertically, both in depth. You can grow with more academic. I am telling this from my personal experience, because I also am a what to say adjunct professor in certain universities. When I teach there as a guest faculty, I have to read up myself, and the amount of enthusiasm I see among the students, the participants, young participants once they enter the industry, they forget that they were students once upon a time. You should be student for life. Then only you will learn and know and grow. All that should come together. It's not only for networking. It should be more of learning. And as I said, you should have monthly conference. Yearly conferences are not enough. And Informa has the capability to do monthly. It's like test matches have become one days have become T20s. You have to have more T20s now.
Right, good way of putting it. But thank you for your feedback. Well noted, especially on the CME points. And it's very important that how seniors have to be connected with even the academia and the younger professionals, so to maintain that continuity. And thank you so much for feedback. And that's something that we as Informa will definitely work on it. And with that, we come to the end of this interview. So thank you so much, Dr. Sinha, for sharing these insights and being our guest for the Biopharma Leaders Stories. This will be very useful to our viewers. And we have started with this series from February this year, where every month a video interview with notable people from biopharma industry will be conducted till September. To our viewers, if you have missed out on any of our earlier editions of the interviews, you can find them on our official channel. Thank you. Thank you very much. With that, we will be signing off.
Thank you very much.